So I really struggle with this time of the year as far as the NFL goes because I struggle, man, do I talk about the Packers right now because we're in this limbo phase until the NFL draft comes. We already had free agency come and go. Whether we agree or disagree with what Brian Gutekunst did or how he handled free agency, I mean, we already discussed that, talked about that. And now we look forward to free agency. And in the meantime, we're fielding rumors out there, people putting out content just for things to talk about. Okay, so I really battle and struggle with that. Do I want to just talk about something just to talk about something? So there was this interesting, and I've seen it on multiple occasions, that the Packers are being linked to some shocking news. What is that shocking news? Well, they're being linked to trading Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs seems to be the trade bait out there, the sexy trade bait outside of Jair Alexander and what that dude can do on the football field if healthy. Romeo Doubs is that concerning piece for me as a Packer fan of, okay, this dude has a lot of talent out there. If he's mentally all there, all in to play for Green Bay, and he's okay with either not getting as many touches as he thinks he's owed or what have you. I really like his hands out there. I think he's one of the more reliable wide receivers that Green Bay has for sure. And he's a valuable asset to Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur's offense and what they're looking to accomplish and do. But then there's been so many links to him getting moved and traded. So I want you guys to leave your comments and let me know, what would it take for you to move and part ways with Romeo Doubs? Because there's a rumor here that the Chiefs would want to trade for him. Of course, would be a nice addition. This 24-year-old in with Patrick Mahomes. They've had some, not great wide receivers there over the last couple of years. And then you've got this trade proposal, this trade pitch out there from the Miami Dolphins proposing that the Green Bay Packers would trade their 198th pick along with Jair Alexander and Romeo Doubs in exchange for Tyreek Hill and the 224th pick. This to me is completely laughable. Why would we want to take a guy like Tyreek Hill with the contract that he has, the age that he is there? He's got 1-2 years left in the league maximum, of still being incredibly relevant and valuable. So I don't understand how this even makes sense for the Packers. It certainly doesn't, to part ways with Jair and Romeo Doubs and a greater pick, 198th pick in exchange for a 224 and an aging, expensive Tyreek Hill. I think it's laughable. That to me doesn't make any sense. Do we need that number one caliber type wide receiver out there? Well, yeah, of course we need this number one caliber wide receiver right here. Then you got this ESPN analyst predicting some major Packer moves in the first round of the 2024 NFL draft, and it's proposing that the Packers, Brian Gutekunst, trades up in the draft to go and get that player. And in their particular case, they're saying that they need to trade up and get that number one wide receiver. I don't know if they're anticipating that Romeo Doubs is going to be with Green Bay or not. He's not a number one wide receiver. Romeo Doubs is not. Let's make that clear. Okay. He's a good number two guy. I really like Romeo Doubs as a clear number two guy. The Packers are deep at wide receiver. If you look at it, if the Packers were able to hang on to balls and Dontavian Wicks has the potential to be a number one caliber type wide receiver if he can get his hands corrected and right. Absolutely. I think he does have our tools in the arsenal to be that guy. And then Jaden Reed is that very valuable asset of one of the better slot wide receivers in the league, in my opinion. But I would really like to see the Packers go after a wide receiver. Now, it's contrary to what Brian Gutekunst does, especially when we've had Brett Favre there for so many years, Hall of Fame quarterback. We really didn't develop or didn't go after any wide receivers in the first round. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Didn't do that for so many years. Okay, so as it stands right now, if the Packers were to trade up, and I want you guys to leave your comments on this too. If the Packers were to trade up and Brian Gutekunst were to trade up, I don't think they need to trade up to get that number one wide receiver, because I think that may fall into their lap anyways, organically. If it were me, I would go after Barron, a corner out of Texas, a dude that is completely versatile. Let's read what this says right here. It says the bottom line: versatility gets thrown around way too much with the defensive backs. prospects out there, but Barron is exactly that. He has, as a natural zone defender and what did Jeff Halfley's defense do? Primarily, there were zone, right? He has excellent instincts and anticipation. He is a starting caliber pro at safety, wide corner where we would need help, or nickel defender, sometimes all three in the same game for cover three or quarters, heavy schemes. This would be my pick if we were to trade up and not trade to get into, the top 10 to go and get a tool. That's just not realistic. Brian Gutekunst would never do that, nor would I want him to do that. Just don't think it's wise. Trading from the 23rd pick to get up to 19, you're not going to have to give up as much to go and get a guy like Barron out of Texas. And I really like, and this is PFF's mock draft right here. If the Packers had the opportunity to get Will Johnson out of Michigan, this is somebody that I watched some football on. This dude is super talented and super good. He's locked down some really good wide receivers. I would certainly welcome just moving up slightly to 22 to get Will Johnson at corner. I think this is a position that the Packers need to address. Now, say that Barron and Johnson are off the books. As it stands right now, the Packers are slated to get Emeka Egbuka, somebody that I've been talking about for a while. I think this would be a perfect dude. If he fell into the Packers' lap, Brian Gutekunst, I don't see a world where he should pass up or why he would pass up on Emeka Egbuka. And I love the blurb right here on him. It says there seems to be some draft fatigue when it comes to Egbuka, who has been talked about as an NFL prospect for the last 3 years, but don't fall for it. He has a high floor, versatile, suave type receiver as a borderline number one wide receiver / number two wide receiver. I certainly think Emeka Egbuka could be that number one wide receiver that the Packers are looking to. Whether or not Dontavian Wicks takes that leap forward as that number one guy, and then Emeka Egbuka is their number two, and then you've got Jaden Reed as your crazy good slot guy. And then who knows what happens with Christian Watson. I don't see a world where the Packers extend Christian Watson out unless he proves that he comes back, maybe early and he looks super good. But with all of his injury issues, I certainly think the Packers have got to start looking and anticipating that Christian Watson's not going to be there for the long haul. It's the same reason why we would be parting ways with Jair Alexander, one of the more talented dudes to ever play the cornerback position in Green Bay, but he's never out there healthy. So I don't see a world where the Packers keep and retain Jair Alexander. It sounds like he's not willing to take a pay cut, and it sounds like the Packers certainly won't be doing that, keeping Jair Alexander. Leave your comments, but as always, go Pack Go.